Something you should know if you're trying to do a manual steering swap. This is a manual steering subframe. As you can see, there's no notch in that. That is a hydraulic steering subframe. Both EG subframes. It has a notch in that. This is the hydraulic bracket. This is the manual steering bracket. Manual steering bracket onto the hydraulic steering subframe. Bolt holes do not line up, as you can see. So if you have hydraulic steering on your car, vice versa, and you're trying to swap it over to the other one, it's not gonna work. I did look up online, and I think they make custom brackets so you can at least put your manual rack onto that. And I guess they just custom make this bracket out of billet aluminum so you can put your manual steering onto your power steering. I don't know if they make a power steering to, or a manual steering to a power steering, but now I just gotta wait for that part to come in, so I can't really do much now. Alright, an update. So I got that bracket welded on to the hydraulic steering subframe to work with my manual rack. If you have your evap canister, you do gotta bend that upward because it's gonna hit your subframe. And then I think it's gone. I thought the only differences in the control arms were those end pieces. Turns out, see how big that is, and how small that is. So these bushings are different. Probably could push them out and use the different bushings, just swap them, but I already have this one I'm about to install into the car. And then the bolts that go to here are longer than the original EK, so make sure you have those bolts for the EG subframe to go into your EK car chassis. And then the subframe bolts to the frame of the car on this very side, on that side. So this is how it's laid out in the car. This is your front control arm bolt. This is the middle subframe, and that's the other subframe bolt. These between the EK and the EGs are the same length, so you can reuse those. This is your front control arm for EK, too thick, so you need your EG ones for the front control arm. So I'm not using those. Then I still gotta see the links on this one, but that's where I'm at right now. I'm about to install that control arm and see what other hardware is different. Here is the final of your subframe hardware. That is for the EK subframe lower control arm bracket. These two are too long. So you have the longest in front, shorter in the back of the car. That's back of the car. But at least these mounting ones is the same orientation as that. These two are the same length, same thread, everything. So you gotta make sure you're getting these two from your EG, this guy from the EG hardware, and then your front control arm bolt from the EG. If you have those, you're good to mount up your EG subframe into your EK. If you don't, you gotta source those bolts, unfortunately, and I'm pretty sure from Honda they're like 14-15 bucks a piece at least. So if you're making a deal for EG subframe, make sure you have all that hardware, or try to lower the price on them. So now I'm gonna install both control arms and then get this thing as a roller. Alright, I am finally done with my EG manual steering swap into my EK. So last thing is, well, two things. These are your U-joints for your steering that connect your rack to your column. these go into your steering column, they're the same. And then on the right you have the EK one, so it goes onto the EK rack just fine. And then you have your EG one, which is way smaller, and it's not gonna fit on there. You could probably spread it out, but no, that's not gonna work. So get the right parts. Make sure you have your EG U-joint too, because you are gonna need it for your EK swap. The other things I hear about is that your strut forks need to be off of EG. They do not. This is my EK forks, and if it's just fine in there. Now I don't know how this is gonna sit ride height wise, because I know it has these spacers in here compared to the EKs. So when I lower this on the ground, I'll see how if it changed my ride height. But for now, they're the same forks. You can use them from EK to EG, and then I just need to tighten everything up, preload the suspension, and then torque those bolts, because we torque all our suspension bolts, right? And then that's basically it. You can put the wheels on, put this on the ground, and then I'll work on my mounts. So quick recap, if I remember everything. You already watched the whole video, this is just gonna be a recap, so you can end the video here. But so your EG subframe, if you have a manual steering one, just if you're planning to go manual steering on your EK with an EG subframe, just get a manual steering subframe. If you have a hydraulic one, just stick to the hydraulic one. But if you have already a manual rack and you bought a hydraulic subframe, you are gonna have to find, well, that's just not gonna work. So if luckily I had a hydraulic and a manual subframe, so I was able to get this bracket and swap them from one to another. But if you just have a manual rack with a hydraulic rack, if you have a manual rack on your hydraulic subframe, you might just be out of luck unless you can fab up something yourself. Or they do make the brackets to put a manual rack onto a hydraulic subframe. So there's that, and then you gotta make sure you have your EG freaking U-joint on your steering from your column to your rack. You gotta make sure you have this bolt from an EG. Your EK one's not gonna work. This bolt right here for the subframe to the frame of the car needs to be EG, and then these two bolts have to be EG, and that one back there, it's missing, but it goes from your subframe to your car. That's the same, and then these are the same. Pretty sure. I have no script, like I said, so I'm just talking. And then forks are the same. You can use your EK on your EG subframe. I gotta see how it looks when it's on the ground, but it should have the same ride height. If you don't, if you're this far into your car, you probably have coilover, so you can just adjust your ride height then. And then what else? I think that's it that you need for your EG swap onto your EK. So just make sure if you plan on running your manual steering, I cannot say this enough, make sure you have a manual subframe. And you can tell this because on the back here, this will not have a notch cut to it. It will be a flat face. If you see a notch back there on this bracket that holds this manual rack onto the subframe, and someone sells it to you claiming it's a manual one, it's a hydraulic one. If it has the notch on the back of this, it's a hydraulic subframe. If it's flat, it's for a manual rack. So don't let people try to confuse you with that, because you will run into a problem. Other than that, Try to make sure that they give you all your hardware. I don't know how many bolts there is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12. So you should have 12 bolts. Make sure you have your 12 bolts. If not, then lowball the guy. And then I feel like that should be it for EG subframe onto the EK. And now I'm gonna make this a separate video because I thought I was just gonna install this and make it one full K-series swap video, but this is just dedicated to the subframe now because of all the issues I ran into. So now I'm gonna get started and finish the K-swap video, but this is just subframe video. Hope that helps.